Hi, let me introduce myself. I do coaching in foreign language interviews in French, but this presentation is addressed to all those doing foreign language interviews, whatever the language. If this is your situation, what is your strategy? Job selection techniques in recent years have changed considerably, along with the nature of jobs. Today's interviewers tend to be professionals who have a whole battery of techniques which are designed to do two things. Firstly, to assess characteristics, which I'm going to describe to you, and secondly, to undertake the assessment by indirect means. What this means for you, the second language interview candidate, is that your interview strategy needs to be developed to offset cultural and linguistic barriers. And it has to do so by targeting very precisely key qualities which are being assessed and which can be grouped into four areas. Where your linguistic expression is restricted relative to your mother tongue, all the other signals you transmit gain in importance. If your interview is going to take place in the near future, improving your second language isn't really an option. You simply don't have the available time. But to the extent that your interview preparation can be defined and targeted, you can gain in both time and quality. In today's job market, it's much harder to survive selection if you can't demonstrate your qualities in the four key areas. These are communication, motivation, judgment, and credibility. The signals have to be clear and they have to be consistent, because this is what will give them their credibility. And as I mentioned, these are tested not through direct questioning, but from all the deductions which your interviewer can make from both your answers and your behaviour throughout the course of the interview. It's for this reason I don't address the question of right answers to questions, but in terms of signals. And these signals can be both verbal and non-verbal, and each signal has to be consistent with all the others. Collectively, they make up the global impression which you leave behind. These signals are the implicit response to the underlying question in the mind of your interviewer. Who is this person? Will they meet our requirements? This constitutes the unspoken exchange in any interview. Its hidden side, and it takes place not in what is said, but beyond what is said. It's important in any interview, but it's even more important in a second language interview where it becomes a strategic tool. So let's take a closer look at these signals with some examples. So the first area of signaling is communication, and the signal I understand you and I want you to understand me is an overall behavioral signal. It communicates your ability to understand and to respond in an appropriate way. It may also be communicated by your body language. Now, it's especially important in second language interviews, since actually your interviewer needs to be put at their ease from the moment you walk into the room. Because like you, they may feel stressed at the uncertainties of the situation. And in fact, your ability to put them at their ease is a vital opportunity to forge a positive first impression. The signal, I'm attentive to what you're saying to me, this requires ensuring that you understand your interviewer and that you have the courage and honesty to say if you don't. Well, this has to be established right at the beginning of the interview. Therefore, don't be afraid to ask your interviewer to slow down his tempo if necessary. The signal also means ensuring that your mobile phone is switched off during the interview and that your body, which always has a great deal to say, adopts the correct posture, which is one of openness. The signal, I want our meeting to be as pleasant as possible, might be termed your quality of contact. It means being relaxed and showing an appropriate amount of warmth and openness. If you find new encounters difficult, practice making them as part of your interview training. Rehearse this open disposition with new contacts whenever the opportunity arises, and in particular your ability to communicate a positive The second area of signaling is motivation. And the signal "I want to play the game" gets communicated in the interaction with and in your attitude towards your interviewer. Ensure for one thing that you don't go into the process negatively with the idea "I'm going to hate this" in the back of your mind, because your interviewer will certainly feel it. If you feel positive, the chances are that they will as well. The signal "I want this interview to be a success" seems a bit obvious from your point of view. The signal will be transmitted through good communication from your understanding of the process and the objectives of the interview, and from the quality of your preparation. Less obvious is that this signal is actually an objective that you share with your interviewer. It's an intersection of interests. So just imagine the elation you feel on finding a perfect product that you've been looking for a long time. If you can communicate that same feeling, half the battle is won. Another signal is "I've thought about the requirements of this position." It's an absolute indicator of your motivation. And it comes from the quality of the preparation, which I've already mentioned. Obviously, it emerges from all the accounts of your professional past, your career events, which you will have selected according to the requirements of the job. The career events require good selection, and you should have a number at your disposal. They also require a critical ability to judge not so much what your best qualities are, but how these are illustrated in your accounts. It's less obvious because it does require this critical distance, which actually most of us don't possess. So if you have the opportunity, bring another person into the process, someone who knows you but not too well. It's actually very rewarding. The signal "I'm proactive" is expressed in all your questions and the reasoning that led you to put them. Let's note in passing that putting any question to your interviewer means taking a risk. This risk is unavoidable, since not putting any questions will transmit a lack of preparation, or worse, a lack of involvement. And finally, the signal "I enjoy contributing." This is the signal of the commitment, which is the basis of all teamwork. So if the job vacancy requires any kind of teamwork or collaboration, it's vital to demonstrate it in your career events. But even this may not be enough. Teamwork and collaboration require a certain generosity. The signal "I enjoy contributing" is a message actually that you enjoy interaction and that you have a capacity to see value in other people's ideas and to appreciate their contribution. It also means accepting other people's ideas at the cost of sacrificing your own. This element of modesty, well, your interviewer probably has to feel it. The third area of signalling is judgment. And of course, good judgment is a critical signal. It's present in everything you communicate. Above all, it's present in every assumption that you make about the position you're applying for, along with the questions that you ask. Because if you haven't understood, well, obviously the whole enterprise is fairly sterile. "I understand this company and its culture" is a signal that's going to hit you as soon as you walk into the room in comparatively simple ways. Your understanding of the dress code, forms of address. More subtly, it'll be present in how you answer questions, not just in the substance of your answers, but in the level of detail. So you have to offer the right answers at the critical times and in the right quantity. Unfortunately, nothing is more guaranteed to give a negative impression than an excess of detail or inappropriate information. Notable example, information on your private life. Avoid the latter unless it's specifically asked for and if you feel it's appropriate to offer. The question, "What do you do in your spare time?" might be put to you as an indicator of personality. The response should be carefully considered in both level of detail and appropriateness. The signal, "I understand the situation and the information you require of me." I've spoken about the quality of your questions and your ability to make judgments. Your ability to make your interviewer feel understood on an emotional and intellectual level, your quality of contact, is a very strong signal which goes well beyond the verbal. It is vital in a second language. Well, the fourth area of signalling is credibility. The signal, my accounts of career events are personal and true. Well, credibility begins with your quality of contact and your ability to answer questions directly. The quality of openness which you communicate is essential. If your interviewer feels mistrust and avoidance, they'll conclude that you have something to hide. The signal, my career events testify my qualities. Your interviewer may, and probably will, put a question along the lines, describe your strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, you have to be careful about the answers, not because he or she doesn't sincerely want an answer, but because it's improbable that your response won't escape subsequent examination when it comes to career events. The answer is to go straight to the facts by illustrating anything you say with examples. The unspoken signal is then, I don't expect you to take me on trust, so I'm going to let my past speak for me. Exercise caution with the trap in any questions concerning strengths and weaknesses. Your interviewer, who will probably have a good range of experience to draw on, will have an absolute sense for any formatted or stereotyped responses. So that if you're tempted to offer a formulaic response, for instance, to present a strength as a weakness, for example, I'm very demanding of myself and therefore I tend to be intolerant of others, your interviewer will sense this and it will damage your credibility. The signal will then be, I don't think for myself, or worse, I won't give you a genuine response because your question scares me. Absolutely toxic. The signal, I like to present myself as I am, I take great pride in it. It's a statement about yourself. It needs to signal your frankness. It says volumes about you. I've already said that your choice of career events is critical. You should have many more at your disposal than you actually need, and the element of choice is an essential part of your strategy. The choice of career events shouldn't be uniformly triumphant. The difficulties you've been through are really important. No career history is complete without them. But your difficult and challenging moments are only useful if they demonstrate your courage, determination, or some other positive aspect. I failed on its own. Well, pretty sterile, really. I failed, but I learned this and this. It's much better. I failed at this, but I persevered, and eventually I demonstrated it was a great approach in the face of opposition. Better still. A last note on credibility. Don't leave your interviewer with any open or unanswered questions. If you've had a career gap, if you were unemployed for a time, and this is obvious from your CV, take the opportunity to explain in a positive way. Don't abandon the question in a way that might subsequently lead your interviewer to cast doubt on what you've said. Generally, it means, well, you have to anticipate all the unspoken and potential questions that your interviewer may have. I've summarized all the 4 areas of signaling: communication, motivation, judgment, and credibility. I've already mentioned it's impossible not to take risks. In other words, to engage with your interviewer, you will have to make assumptions, judgments about the position you're applying for, the nature, the circumstances of the company, and perhaps of the interviewer, him or herself. And there is absolutely no guarantee that your judgment will be correct. Now, if this risk is unavoidable, a well-prepared strategy will help you to minimize it. You may be asking yourself, why take risks at all? Well, the answer is that if you don't, you'll be at a serious disadvantage faced with candidates who will, and of whom your interviewer might later say, yeah, with that candidate, I felt somebody real speaking to me. Therefore, in response to the question, why take risks at all, the answer is that in terms of strategy, taking risks is less risky than not doing so. So to go back to the initial question, what's your strategy? Well, this will be calculated to take into account all 4 areas of signaling. And there's no avoiding the fact that if first language interviews are hard, second language interviews are harder still. To maximize your chances of success, you need to focus on the underlying dialogue by answering the unspoken questions. And by that means, enter into the true dialogue. You thereby make your preparation more efficient, by working smarter. Well there, I've touched on all the main points. Thank you for your attention. Do join me on my website www.forimpact.be, and I wish you the very best for your interview.